The future of our food is resilient, no matter whether the stresses are economic, cultural, environmental, climatological.
Hi, my name is Helen Henry, and my entry for the future of our food focuses on food sovereignty. This project was inspired by a little existential crisis that I had when attempting to make dinner, and then subsequently wrote a poem about. The colorful condensation of capitalism stares me down from the kitchen cabinet. Intimidation tactics elicit a tainted take on dinner. In this project, I explored food sovereignty and our local food systems in order to gain a less tainted take on the future of our food and perhaps some hope.
The future of our food is also so rich with potential and so ripe and abundant with possibility. I think the work of answering that question of what possibilities are right to pursue is a matter of creativity, not a matter of there being a dearth of inspiration sources. We have so much to draw from here. So much beautiful land use history, so much diversity of culture, so much incredible tradition that can lead us into the 21st century in a powerful and resilient way.
Food sovereignty for Taos would mean we can produce our food locally and have all of the systems that we would need to do that.
Food sovereignty is important we'll put it in two reasons. One reason is very obvious because food is the basis of our health. If we have good food and we are responsible with how we consume that food, then we have a better chance at being healthy human beings that can help other people be healthy human beings. From a more scary standpoint, there's a statistic or a little, not fun, it's a scary fact out there that says every small town is a weekend away from anarchy. And that means if the food trucks were to stop driving in, then we wouldn't have food at our grocery stores. And if people don't have food, they can get pretty desperate. So we want to level out that desperation by being self-sustaining in our own community.
Bees play a huge role in food sovereignty because they pollinate 1 in 3 bites that you eat at the grocery store. And they're just so important. It's, we wouldn't have almonds, wouldn't have oranges, we wouldn't have a lot of fruit and other vegetables that need pollination. If you have pollinators, you have a lot more food. I mean, I always have fruit on my trees, whereas I know neighbors don't always, because I've got pollinators living in my orchard, and so they can't help but pollinate. I wish there were more actual farmers here.
I've talked to people who are in sustainable agriculture, and I asked them what their biggest frustration was, and they said, we can't make money, we can't survive doing this kind of work. So I want to shift the importance away from things like, developing perhaps the latest social media technology to developing the latest food technology. How can we combine ancient practices that have worked and were by their nature sustainable with our modern technology we have, and find this middle ground where we are not working as hard, but we are benefiting more than we were in the past.
What is permaculture and why is it important to food sovereignty?
Permaculture is a design methodology that was originated from some folks working together in Australia. And the work that they were doing was sort of a mix of bringing together many different indigenous traditions of cultivating food and stewarding ecosystems, and also sort of layering in some new insights that came from looking at all of those traditions together and sort of seeking commonalities in principles and premises and paradigms for community and culture and land and food. And so that methodology became sort of codified in some pretty formative books like the Permaculture Design Manual that have since spawned, a pretty widespread movement around design that integrates nature's principles and does so in a way that allows for the flourishing of the production of food, of local ecology and biodiversity, of water, of culture and community. So yeah, it's been an amazingly successful movement in the last 50 years.
For me, it's more a goal of an experiment to think, what does it look like to attempt to get to food sovereignty and what you can learn in the process of getting to food sovereignty as a goal.
You see a lot of the success around food sovereignty in Taos and like northern New Mexico specifically in the communities?
I do, yeah. I think that there's certainly huge potential for those successes and those strengths to be highlighted more, and sort of brought intentionally to the forefront of the conversations that are happening locally around food resiliency and climate change and water and, community and cultural intactness.
My hopes for our food is that we can keep it all out of the landfill, get as much of it to people's homes.
The future of our food is everyone doing their part from the position that they're in.
My message is that you should not be fooled that all we have done is figure out how wrong things are. There's an incredible richness of possibility and a real history of field-tested solutions, practices people have been using for millennia in dry climates like Taos to grow food and have amazingly rich culture.
I think the future of our food is, one, dependent on pollinator access, two, immigrant labor, because I don't see any white-collar white people picking anything at all. Three, maintaining farmland.
Take a risk, be willing to fail, know that you have power, know that you have as much of a say and as much of a genius as anyone else.
I hold a lot of hope for humanity. The reason I do that is because the opposite opinion is honestly just too sad to think about. So I believe it is possible because of people like my neighbor who has been farming by himself for 20 years.
It is possible to live in community and grow food and steward our places in ways that actually create more abundance and more complexity and more resiliency over time. So that's the regenerative future that I want to see.